Hey there, YouTube. So today, before we get directly into our subject, I just need to preface this video with a couple of remarks. I made them at the end of my last video, but I don't think a lot of people make it all the way to the end of my videos. I know they're long. Today's might be really long. So first I want to say I don't mix social media, so please don't seek me out on Facebook or other social media platforms. It's just for my friends and family only. You know, I'm weird enough without bringing this content over to there, and I need space that's private for those in my life that, you know, aren't looking at this stuff. So I really appreciate that. Please don't be offended or something if you've looked for me over there and I haven't responded. I will say that I always respond to everybody. If you leave a comment on any of my YouTube videos, I will respond to you. YouTube likes to hide comments from me and change my settings. I have to go in every day almost and change my settings on YouTube back to the way that I want them. So if it's taking me a while to get to your comment, don't worry, I will. I will find it and I will get to it. And if I never did, I mean, I really had it hidden from me. So I really appreciate everybody respecting that privacy for me. Thank you. The other thing I want to say that I said at the end of my last video is that I am going to open a phone line for you guys. And I'll start by saying that I'm never going to withhold content, ever, at all. I'm never going to monetize my account and I'm never going to ask for money. But people are asking me for my private time. So I thought a good compromise would be to open up a phone line to do hour-long conversations with you guys. If you want to buy that from me, you can. But it's just for people who want to talk. It's not for information that you can't get from me here. I'm never going to withhold. I give you my word. I'm always going to tell you every part of my journey that that is relevant for me to share. So that is something I meant to do last week, but had a little bit of a kerfluffle this week, which ended up being kind of cool because it brought me to a lot of this information I'm going to share with you guys today. And then I'm going to go on a little trip to the beach. So hopefully by next week I'll have a phone line open for those who feel like they want to talk. Okay, so I'll do a video on that at some point when it's ready to go. The other thing I want to say is about my comment section. When you're in my comment section on my channel, I mean, you guys talk to each other there as well, but you are talking to me. I am going to be the one normally who responds to you. And I am getting a little more strict with who's showing up there. If someone's negative or disgusting or incredibly rude or name call, any of that stuff, I don't respond to you at all. I just remove you and I block you from my channel. So if you want to listen to the content and you don't agree, maybe just don't say anything, okay? Because I'm really not into interacting with people that way. I also want to respectfully ask that men, please do not call me honey, baby, darling, sweetheart. You know, I know some of you are just being nice or you think that's okay. To me, it is an unearned intimacy. And I'm going to start getting rid of that as well. I have no interest in interacting with that. There's a lot of men who comment on my videos who are just lovely and respectful and wonderful. And even some of you who've used, who've used some of those words. Like, I'm not across the board on that. I'm just requesting that, you know, I'm in my 40s. You know, I'm a grown woman. I have children. I don't want to be called girl or any of these things. So please be respectful on my channel to me. And I will always be loving and respectful back to all of you. So those are my requests and my updates. And so let's get right into the subject. I'm going to do my best to convey this in a concise manner. So our subject is the mud flood parasites, Mount Meru, and the color green. So one of the things that has come to me recently is that I'm seeing is the mud floods, right? Everyone's talking about the mud floods and the cycles that our cell is going through, right? And the plasma breaks the dome and all this stuff. And we get these mud floods that come out and you get the end of one civilization or era or epoch or whatever and the beginning of another one. Well, it's been insinuated by some that we go back and forth between an age like this, like a death cycle age, and then and a golden age. Well, what I'm seeing is that that's not so. I'm seeing that we have gone through a series of mud floods, and I think that there have been 7 of them. Okay, and so, and I know a lot of people will resonate with this. You know, it's like we're in the 7, and you know, like when I was a kid in church, I remember the preacher always talking about how 7 was God's number, right? Well, yeah, I agree. I think that's the amount of times we cycle through this mud flood situation. And if if you've watched, The True Kiss of God is a Bite from a Snake, which is a video I made, you know where I stand on this God business. The God and the snake is the same individual presenting himself in duality as 2 different aspects. Okay, so I don't want to do a lot of review because my videos are already long enough without review. So if anything doesn't make sense, maybe go back and look through some other stuff. And remember, like, the older you go back in my videos, the further back on my journey that you are. So just know that as well. I might not have said the exact same thing now between then, but I just want to show some different aspects of the 7, okay? And you know all of them. So this one is like, the Catholic stuff, and these are all like pictures on my phone, so they're going to be hard to see. I'll help you see them. It's called the earthly paradise is what it says there, and it goes through the 7 different levels. And of course, I've shared with you my own 7 heaven picture that I drew in the well where we live here, and it's pretty much the same picture, and it goes through all the different the excommunicate, the Lord late repentant, I can't read them all, the proud, the envious, the wrathful, the slothful, the covetous, the gluttonous, the lustful. Now, when I looked at this, I realized that I think this is inverted. I actually think it's backwards and it goes the other way, and I'll say more about that in a little bit. So let's just go through some of the 7s. The 7 seals of Revelation, right, with the 4 horsemen, and this is actually the death cycle of the cell, which shows the 8. Might come back to that. We've got the 7 notes, right? We've got, there they are again on the scale. The 7 notes, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. The 7 chakras of the body. The 7 colors, of course. The 7 seas of our world. Indicative of the floods, if you ask me. 7 wonders of the world. Gosh, there's got to be infinitely more than 7. 7 deadly sins. The 7 days of the week. All right. So 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. So what I'm seeing there is 7 mud floods. And so these are so imagine the golden age, the time of growth and life. There's a lot of other words associated with it, which I actually don't think are correct. So you've got the switch over, the initial switch over to let's go back to that one picture, to the death cycle, which inverted this earthly paradise thing would be the lustful. They call it 7. I'm going to call it 1. And a lot of people talk about that story within Adam and Eve of the initiation of sex, right? From the garden. We can call it the garden. The garden is a great word for the golden age. So the first thing that comes in is sex, the lustful. And then you go through these, and then the gluttonous, so that's the eating, right? And then and it goes on through the different layers of killing off our cell that we live in. So when these mud floods happen, what I'm seeing come in with each mud flood is the parasites. The paradise parasite. And how exactly do I start to get into this? Okay, so that's what I see. And this is what I'm seeing is controlling our world. I mean, this is what I really want to say is that with the death cycle and the 7 layers of death is controlled by a parasite. And it comes from the north and the south. Exactly how to say this. So you know when you ever had an encounter with a ghost or a demon or an entity or something like that, like a real one? I had once when my child was born, when she was a newborn. We had a demon show up in the house. And when it showed up strongly, it was frigid. It was frigid, cold, and icy. That whole air around it would just turn to ice, okay? So I want to mention this in reference to where the parasite in our world, in our outer world, lives. So the icy center pole of the North Pole and the outer rim of our cell, the Antarctic rim. Like, here's a really lame drawing that I drew. I'm not an artist, you guys, okay? So I just drew a cell and this worm, okay, going up through the center and around the edges. And that's where you have your frigid, cold, and ice, okay? And the worm, so the worm comes in and the parasites come in on these mud floods. And it's just, you imagine the mud floods coming in and taking over the land, and it's filled with filth and bugs and parasites. And that's how we all get infected over time. And I think with each one, the parasite gets a little bit more intelligent. I also think through these 7 levels, we are being shrunk down and shrunk down and shrunk down and shrunk down. And there is a lot of evidence. I really highly recommend Mud Fossil University's, one of the last vestiges of a good channel I think exists on YouTube. Straightforward, you know, he doesn't do graphics and all this crazy stuff. He's just straight up, so like me, talking and showing things, okay? I think his name's Roger. And he's going to show the mining evidence, the harvesting evidence that's all over our earth. And he's going to show how our earth is made up of dead bodies. The blood and the heavy metals and all of this stuff is within our geology, right? The mountains. And I know a lot of my subscribers probably already watched this guy. He's a well-known channel. So what I see here, this correlation that I see here between the parasite coming in the mud floods, and it's sort of encapsulating our cell. It's sitting on the outer and in the inner reaches of it, and it is represented by the color green. And you've got the aurora borealis, and all these people saying we're going to go to Hyperborea. Okay, note the same word within the word. Okay, so the boar. I don't know if any of you have ever read the book The Wheel of Time. It's not a book. It's a series of books. In fact, it's the longest series of books you could possibly ever read. And I think they made it 16 books for a reason. I mean, who gets through all of that? Because by the time you've read the 16th book, you've read pretty much the story of what's going on here. And if you don't want me to ruin the end of this series of books for you, maybe don't listen to this video, because I am going to say what the taint, they call it the taint of the humans that ends up being this parasite, okay? And it lives in the north. As you travel to the north in this book, the taint becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And there is a place it is called Sheo Gul, and it is a giant mountain. Around here, we might refer to it as Mount Meru. But I don't believe Mount Meru is its real name. I actually prefer to call it Sheo Gul because Mount Meru is more an India reference to their culture and stuff. It is about a mountain in the center. I mean, we're talking about the same place. I just don't want to confuse it with their mythology. So you've got Shangulu in the north, this great mountain that in the growth cycle of our cell was the tree, right? Home tree. You know, our home, our tree. And we are more trees really than we realize, and that might be a whole nother video. But so, you know, when a tree becomes very, very ancient and old, you see a really, really old tree, well, they hollow out in the center. They become hollow in the center. And like in the movie Avatar, the home tree is hollow in the center, and they all live inside it, and it has the big staircase in the middle. So when you go into the death cycle and you have that plasma inverted, right, it petrifies everything. That's why like Mud Fossil University would say, you know, all the mountains and everything that he's looking at, it's all petrified. It's all that instant petrification of what was once like flesh and blood. So you go from a tree, a life cell, into a death cell, you got a mountain. And in the mountain, they bore into and hollow out to this sort of demon realm where you have the great worm. And in the book, The Wheel of Time, the great worm's name is Shaitan. Shaitan, you guys, right? So in Aramaic, this means the great worm, okay? And, you know, this is referenced in especially Chinese culture. They very much know about and worship this great worm, which I think that there's different aspects of this parasite. This parasite has made itself into all kinds of different forms. Like I would say that the elite, or the people who are the supposed people who are running things here on Earth, they have a very specific parasite to them that runs them, and it's different than the parasites that they've infected all of us with, okay? But let's look at the aurora borealis and how it often takes on faces, winged, looks like a bird, probably more like a dragon. And you know, you see this all over too in references to our past ages and stuff. We're aware of this parasite. We're aware of this worm, this dragon. And I think it's become more and more hidden all the time. Now this one I really like. It's a dragon spewing the auroras. You see that? That's just what the aurora borealis looks like. That green. And here's a great one. You can find these on Google. People think it's magical. So it's not picking it up that well. But it basically looks like a giant winged green dragon. So, well, there's like a close-up of it. It's the aurora borealis. And you've got this group of people on YouTube that I used to be quite taken with, that, you know, want everyone to go to Hyperborea. Hyperborea. This fake paradise. So here, the paradise parasite that lives parallel to us, within us, and it paralyzes us. It paralyzes us, creating paradox and this paradigm that we live in. Okay? And so I was walking through the park the other day, and I was thinking about this color green, and you know, I'm so suspicious of this green. Like, why am I suddenly so suspicious of green? You know, I'm a gardener. I'm very into nature. I love the color green. I always have. And I was standing there, and I'm in this very green place. There's grass under my feet everywhere, and there's all the evergreen trees around me because I live in the Pacific Northwest. And it just suddenly came to me. I'm like, oh, this green. It's like the base color of nature. And in the base colors of nature, you have green, blue, brown, gray, right? Those are your, oh, it's always backwards on here, but those are your base colors of nature. Those are also the base colors of everybody's eye color, okay? And what is in the center of our eyes is the bore, the black, the pupil. And I do think there is a correlation between the two. So I'm seeing all this green around me and I'm like, oh, this is the base. This is the base color. This is the breakdown color. Like if you think about how we're biology, the green inside of the body is the color of it's the breakdown color. It's it's liver bile, right? Even liver stones, if you've ever done like a liver cleanse. So it's this breakdown color. It's sort of more of like a death color. Let me get to that picture. Like I actually had a hard time finding pictures of things that go wrong in the body. You can see that, you know, like these green formations that take place, and that it is the color of death and dying, you know. And we don't know it that way here. We know it as life, right? A green, it's like abundance, like they make the money green. You know, I've got green plants all around me. It's life. But you know, everything here that is life, that is born, that springs forth, comes out to die. There's nothing that sustains life here. We're in the death cycle. So we get the warmer seasons, right, where it gets a little warmer in spring and summer, and we get nature making more of an effort. We get the color of flowers, that you know, all the different colors of the rainbow, because we are limited to that spectrum here in this reality. And they make their best efforts, and they die. Just like us, you know, we're born and we make our best efforts to live here, but we're sleeping more than half the time we're here, and we die. We age and we get sickly and we die. This is not life, you guys. We are in the death cell, and green is a very denoting color of what's going on here. It's the breakdown of the cell, okay? So this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing this green kind of for what it really is. And, you know, I looked up chlorophyll because that's sort of the base, the pigment. There's several green pigments found in it's a cyanobacteria, and it's what creates photosynthesis, right? Allowing plants to absorb sunlight, which is inverted light. The blue and the red spectrum. And it transfers light into resonance and then charges into a separation for biosynthesis, the red and the blue, the A and the B. And then oxidation occurs and creates CO2. And this is just the base form of life trying to take place, life trying to happen. And I don't believe it is the full potential of what life is or what it can be. It is just the base structure of life attempting to exert itself is this green. And I think it denotes how far we are down through this death cycle. I'm sorry, up, down. I don't mean to use those words. They're actually very silly words. In fact, most of our words are pretty silly. The more I get into the word stuff, I'm like, oh. It's insidious, which somebody made a comment about that the other day. And so these paradise parasites from Hyperborea that come in these mud floods. And I really think that the main one is a green, like lion-headed dragon, right? There it is sitting there reading a bunch of books. It creates the false narratives and the stories to tell you, to sort of keep you hypnotized in this state of the world. And so I would venture to guess that this section of the population that is helping the parasite, that is in league with the parasite, and maybe they, maybe that's what their silly numbers are about too. Maybe they're 33.3% of the population and we're 66.6%, whatever. Their numbers to me are stupid. It's blip, 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 blip. That's their code. I don't like that stuff. I don't like it when people have those numbers and stuff on their YouTube names. It's just drop it, you guys. It's not about us. It's about them. But anyway, so I would say that they have a different parasite in them, running them, than the parasites that we've been infected with. And we are infected with parasites. So one of the things that happened to me this week is I got really sick because I did a parasite kill-off in my body. And this was a profound thing for me. And that's why I think I started to see the great winged green dragon, and that in the bore, the hole of the hollowed out tree in the center where it lives, and the frigid land around, I started to see all of it, and the way it comes in on the filth and the mud during these floods, and it just started to become clear to me. I don't even know how well I'm conveying this to you guys right now, because to me it's just such a huge subject, and I get a small chance to talk about it here in my house, but you know how it is, you guys. There's not a lot of conversation that goes on. So this green is everywhere. This green, it's all over our world. It sits on everything. It's hanging from the trees. It's just life barely hanging on. Our water, you can see like a big crock in the green water there. It's to me, it's the end. So I did this parasite cleanse, and that's when I really started to be like, oh, and so I started to research what is going on with these parasites. What do they do inside of our bodies? Well, they paralyze us. They are paralyzing our speech, our sight, all of those 5 senses. Somebody left me a comment about how the cross represents the 5 senses that the human is sort of nailed to here. And I thought that was very, very true. I found this picture of the green winged dragon wrapped around a cross there. I don't know if you can see that. So, they're really big on that symbology. So it's sort of taken over our sensory stuff. And you'll know it when you kill them. When you start to kill them in your body, the thing I have felt the most is the freedom of my mouth and my speech. Just, I can't even barely describe it to you guys. I had no idea how locked down I was until I started killing the parasites. And another commenter of mine pointed out that more than like a parasite, she said it's Lyme disease. Lyme disease is it's green, okay? Limestone is green. It's referencing green for a reason. It is parasitical. I'm going to say Lyme disease is parasitical. And I would say any diseases. After doing what I've just done, it's, they tell you have cancer, they tell you have arthritis, they tell you have all these different things, and you have parasites. And parasites go into the body, and they attach themselves to places where you have injury. So if you're injured or have scars or anything, that's a place where they like to sit and feed, because it's already kind of broken down. There's room there for them. And we're talking about hookworms, tapeworms, liver flukes, lungworms. In fact, here is a picture of a lungworm. Look at that dragon. Okay, it's just a very tiny, tiny version of the of that larger. Where's that horrible drawing of mine? There it is. Of the larger one. So in shrinking us down, the parasite is also shrunk down, and it's hiding. It's hiding, you guys. So we used to make this joke that whenever we found out what was really going on here and who was really in control, that it would be this tiny little frightened thing with a big eye sitting in some dark place going, not me, no. And it's so funny because I feel like I really figured that out this week. Like, okay, this is a tiny little parasite. So maybe there's a bunch of them, laying eggs and doing their thing. And it's hiding in our inner world, and it's hiding in the outer world. So like in the book, The Wheel of Time, when they get to, I got to look at how to pronounce it, Sheol, they do all of this stuff to fill in the bore. They fill in that hole and cut off the dark one, Shaitan, from getting in with its taint. And I think that very much appeals to people. Like, okay, so I found this picture. I just have to speak to this of boop, boop. Oh, there's that too, yeah. There's so many references to this. So this is a picture from a book called Hyperborea. And it shows like a warrior with a sword and an axe, and he's fighting the taint. He's fighting that parasite. And really, you see it just looks like a bunch of globs with eyeballs, right? So what I found was this is in like all these video games. All these video games is you fight the dragon. You fight the dragon with the sword, and you fight the parasite, and that's what they want. They want you to take on that warrior thing. A lot of meat eaters come into my information and make these comments about how not eating meat makes you weak and stuff. It's like, yeah, I get it. We're not looking to be the warrior here. Here for me, that's not what this is about. This is about goodness and true humanity is what's going to get rid of this parasite for us. Not taking up weapons and fighting it. We don't fight it like that. I can say even from the fight I did with my body this last week that it was kind of brutal, you guys, to actually fight the parasite like that. So I think there may be another way, and we can probably figure it out together. But where was I? So in the book, they fight the parasite, or they fight the Shaitan, and they block off its access into this world where, I really think that when we get the light reversal and that plasma fire comes to baptize us all with fire is when we're going to burn this parasite out for real and for good. And I believe that's almost here because we are so deep within this death cycle. And you look around this world and it's all green and brown and blue and gray. It's all this base of what nature can do. And so I do think we're very close. If you ever watched that series, Planet Earth, it's like a whole series all about the plane. Man, if you watch that with real eyes, you just see this like death, this place of there's barely anything alive here. I think the one that's really telling is the one about the oceans because it shows that there's only like these tiny few places where there's real life in the oceans, and it's due to temperature. It's always due to temperature. Like I was saying with the spring and the summer where nature gets a little bit of a shot at producing more than it can usually in this just green-brown state that it's in. So it really is about temperature. So when that fire comes and we hold that fire, that's when we're going to be alive and filled with life. And these parasites are just going to get burned fuck out. So don't be led to Hyperborea, you guys. Get away from that stuff. And anyone who's selling that green light dragon bullshit, they're either at best an escapist, which I totally relate to. I've been an escapist myself. Wanted to leave. We all kind of want to leave this aspect of reality. And at worst, they're a deceiver. And I do believe there is a potential to be deceived into the bore and to get pulled perhaps back into that cycle, that death cycle somewhere else in the body. And I personally did not want to go to Hyperborea or have anything to do with that. So I just want to point out that Mount Meru paradise parasite green shit that is being sold on a lot of different channels. I'm going to tell you, be careful of these channels, you guys. I had, and I'm not going to mention people because it's not worth my time. But I had some big channels come over and comment in my comment section the other day. Within the hour, my whole account was hacked. I had to spend time like unhacking it. I'm really not seeing a lot from big channels that I trust anymore. I don't know why some people are so trusting of this stuff. You know, they got all these graphics and time, or they're going on traveling around to show you this information. It just seems suspect to me. You know, I like channels like that are smaller and that are, you know, you can tell they're real people. You can tell that they're just honestly talking about their thing, and they're not teaching. Like, I'm not teaching. I'm a sharer and a shower. I'm not coming to you with my ego or any of that. We are all human. We're all in this together. Another thing I saw that they reference a lot with the green is, you know, the Wizard of Oz, right? The Emerald City. And this is sort of like, you know, there it is under the rainbow, you know, and that's where they are. And it's very seductive, you know, all that Hyperborea, Emerald City. And then look at this Oz character with the collar. It looks like the worm, the dragon, the parasite. And I'm sure there's a lot more in that movie that's been picked apart that supports what I'm saying. You know, in China, I was saying they really know all about their parasite. I mean, they worship it in the streets with their green dragon dance. You know, they're constantly dressing up like this. And, you know, the Li family, I've talked about them before. You know, they're one of the main rulers of this existence that we have going on here. And what else was I going to say? There's the bile ducts inside of a cow. I think it was a cow. Green bile ducts. That's like the breakdown color. It is the filth. And I'm not saying like, okay, like here's a picture of nature, beautiful grass and trees of green and stuff. And you know, it's all we've got here. I get it. Like, nature is green, and it is the attempt of life bursting forth and trying to live in this inverted light. So while grass is beautiful and trees are beautiful and plants are beautiful, my friend just did a video about her aloe plants. Aloe is a very, very healing plant. I juice it sometimes. You know, I get that. You know, don't take it so far to me saying like green is bad. I'm just saying green denotes something that's going on here. And the aurora borealis is a light display of the worm. Now, punch into Google the word worm with a Y instead of an O, and you will get pictures of dragons. There's one I got from my Google worm search. You know, they just change a vowel on this stuff and kind of hide things from us. And these are the parasites that are living in our bodies. This one's a liver fluke, and I think that one looks a little bit more like a worm than a dragon. You know, I showed you this one before, the lung ones, which to me look completely like a dragon. And there's that collar that guy was wearing in the Wizard of Oz picture. So what I want to share is that this is what we're dealing with here is parasites, Lyme disease, this green taint and filth. And this is inside of our bodies, and it is outside of in our world. And I say that we're going to deal with this a lot better with our own bodies, dealing with this individually within our own bodies, because we can't all pick up swords and axes and go fight this giant worm. You know, this is a very protected worm. So, but it is, and look at all these flat earth pictures. They show the big dragon around the edge. There's like a video game of the world with the dragon around the edge. There's another flat earth with a big dragon around the edge. Again, this one's a classic one. I don't know, it's kind of hard to see. It's got the big dragon around that ice ring, that frigid demon ghost. You know, there's one, the silly one with the sort of edge with the water falling off and the dragon there. And you know, I ain't afraid of no ghost. I'm not scared of this shit. They're banking on our fear. They're banking on, that's what they're feeding off of, that's what they instill in us because it's so delicious to them. After they've corrupted your blood too with the parasites, all they have left to feed off of is your fear. So, I mean, that's why they like little children and stuff so much, because they do have the cleaner blood. And I do promote people cleaning their blood out of this stuff. You know, some lady came into my channel one day and was like, how can you be promoting clean blood? This is what this is what, well, she didn't say parasites, but she's like, that's what they feast on. And I'm just like, you have got to be kidding me. So you think you should have filthy blood because this is, because to have cleaner blood makes you tastier? I don't know. I just don't understand people. But I get that we're all trying to figure it out. So we're all wherever we're at with it. So the big lion-headed dragon is sort of the elite's version of this parasite. I showed you all the ones that are living inside of your body. There's pinworms. There's all kinds of things. And so they deworm the animals all the time, especially the animals that we eat. And they have to. They have to deworm these animals to a certain degree, or like your dog and stuff like that, because if you just let it go like they did in humans, it would just be too noticeable. You'd buy your steak at the store and it'd be filled with worms. You'd be like, oh, this is disgusting. I don't want to eat it. So it's hidden a little bit. It's still in there. The eggs or even the young ones are almost impossible to kill. Even with the dewormers, they don't kill the eggs or the young ones. They only kill the adults. So they give the animals these dewormers, and that kills off the adults within the system. But it leaves the eggs and the stuff within the meat so that people will consume it and get infested and get infested. That's why everyone is so sick and in pain in their joints, and we can't communicate well with each other. We can't see things for what they are. We're talked out of all of our observations. This is parasites, you guys. Parasites all the way. They come in on the mud floods. They've been shrinking us down. The parasites have been shrinking down, and we are infested. All of us. They make it sound like these like third world countries and places, they're so dirty and they have no, I mean, we are all covered with this filth. It is in all of us. So this is why I do promote not eating the flesh and blood of animals, because eating the flesh and blood of animals does feed these parasites. So, and I'll share with you this week when I got very sick and when I was going through a parasite die-off, the night that I was one of my sickest nights, I went to sleep and I had this dream, and it was the scariest dream of my whole life. And I've had plenty of nightmares. I mean, we've all had plenty of nightmares. But I dreamt I was in this big house and that I was a young girl and I was a woman. And these people came into the house. There was like 100 of them. And they looked like every different kind of person you can imagine. Every color, race, gender, size. And they all kind of like zombie-like came at me. And I knew they were going to eat me while I was alive. And I've had they're going to eat me while I'm alive dreams before. But in this dream, I laid there while they did it in this dream. And they ate me, like sucked the blood out of me. And at one point in the dream, the little girl disappeared, and I was just the woman. And they all backed off at one point, and they all left, but they were keeping me there in the house. So I was like kind of huddled up in a corner, covered in blood and bites, and was laying there. And I knew that they were full, and that when they got hungry again, they were going to come back for me. And then I just woke up. I woke up from this dream and was like, holy shit, and I kind of got the feeling after that dream that not only did the parasites feast on your feast, everything that you're eating, that they're also feasting on you directly, your blood. They're probably in there drinking your blood as a regular meal, and they're definitely getting all the nutrients from your food and giving you the scraps. That's why people are always so hungry. One thing I've noticed this week after this parasite kill off, you mix those words up, is I'm just not hungry. You guys, I have no cravings for anything. I definitely don't want anything sweet. Yeah, I'm just not super interested in food. I've had an avocado today. I felt like eating an avocado, and I feel fine. I've been drinking a lot of coconut water because somebody pointed out too in my comments. I love great comments about how we are starved of plasma here. And I want to make a video about how plasma is such a huge part of our identity. It's 55% of our total body weight, and consisting of water within that 55%. And the water that is within the plasma is pure and clean. And I think that's why, you know, when you drink a coconut water, you get so much more hydration from it, because coconuts are like 99.9% similar to human plasma. That's how alike we are to trees, okay? That's how much the trees are our brothers and sisters. Anything that comes from a tree is going to be good for you. Like did the turpentine cleanse. Be careful with that. And fruit obviously is a food where nothing dies if you eat it. It's a food that's meant, it's a seed pod. Anything that's a seed pod is meant to be ingested. But anyway, the plasma is going to nourish and clean and hydrate us and just sort of burn out all of this filth that I'm bringing to our attention. So I know that there will be a shift. I don't bring any of this to the forefront to promote fear or to, you know, say that we should be scared of this in any way, or that it's like, oh, so negative, or to look at the green world as this negative thing. We just need to see it we need to see things for what they are. We need to see it with real open eyes and be fearless in the face of it. You know, we've been going through this for a long time. I don't think we can get shrunk down any further than we have been, and I think we're all ready for the flow of life and growth that we know is coming. We can feel that it's coming. But I want to address this hyperborea, aurora borealis stupidity that is on YouTube, and things like BOI, blood over intent, that are trying to get people to go to this Sheo Ghoul, from what I can tell, and get cycled back into another 7 stages of death or something, or get eaten by the worm completely. You know, I don't even care what their agenda is. You know, they have one. And I think another evidence of this being sort of the end of the whole thing, actually let's go back to that, is just how far this has gone with technology and AI, and just how deeply in this death cycle we are. You can't get much more dead than this. So you know how I showed you this one earlier, and I said I feel like it's in reverse, and that 7, it says the lustful, which I think is actually the first phase that we went through, the 1. So the number 7 is the excommunicate. And I was looking at that word, and I'm like, yeah, the excommunicate, the exit, the exiting of communication in the way that we do it here, the spell casting, the bound of the spell, the exit. So down here in the well of abundance. So I do think this is inverted, and I do think that we are at the 7, and I do think it is the exit point. Okay, nothing to fear, you guys. I'm just wanting us to see this for what it is. And if you want to get the parasite out of your vessel, stop eating the flesh and the blood of animals. The previous video I did called The Laws of the Blood, you know, follow these laws. I've changed a lot in my life just in the past couple of months to keep these laws of the blood, to uncorrupt myself. You can change your mind or your ways today, tomorrow, at any point in time, and rectify whatever choices that you've made in the past. So this is about being humane. This is about treating each other really, really well, And that's why I ask for respect and stuff on my channel and in my videos. I really don't want to interact with people who are incapable of keeping the law of do unto others, and to quit degrading people. It's just, I'm over it. I want to interact with the people who are on my channel who are really beautiful, humane lovers. And I want their information. I want to be in conversation with them. And this is who I'm interested in sharing the well of abundance with, the people who are capable of making those choices. So to keep your body clean, just do your research, you guys. Get out there and do research about how to get parasites out of your body. Look up these parasites, the liver flukes, pinworms, lungworms, hookworms. There's mites that live in your face, you guys. The thing that cleared up the most in my cleanse was my face. And my senses. I walked into Albertsons this morning and it smelled like bloody death in there, you guys. And put my hand over my face. I never smelled that smell in there before. I was like, whoa. It's a grocery store. I don't know if you probably don't have them everywhere, but so it really like freed up my senses as my own. I feel right now like my body is more my own, but I'm sure there's eggs or whatever that have yet to hatch or whatever. So it's an ongoing process. You want clean food, hydration, just anything you can do for your health, your health of mind and heart. And you know how they have the chakra, the green chakra is your heart chakra? No, not green. Gold. Okay? It's gold. You have a heart of gold. And, I've already said before, I think that the feet and the hands I think are red. You root to the earth where you're going to pull in the fire into your body. One other thing I wanted to say through all of this is because we're in the death cycle and in this sort of water world, basically. So right now, the makeup of our body is a huge percent of our body is water, and like some of the water obviously is in our plasma, which is cleaner water, but the rest of the water in our body is pretty dirty. And what do we know about water? Like Dr. Emoto's work and stuff, it's that water takes on the memory of everything it comes in contact with. So you're really impressionable in these bodies that die off like this. We're very easily influenced. We're very easily mind controlled. All it has to do is pass before our eyes, and your body will take on the memory of it. You guys all remember that clip they caught of Mark Zuckerberg saying, about how he used to be human. Probably he has the green-winged dragon parasite in him now, so he really can't call himself a human. But he's like, well, you're human, so it will bother you. See, they know that you're a human, you will be bothered by what passes before you, because you are just like this water bubble here, and you will take on everything that comes around you. So that's how easily influenced we are. We need to know that about ourselves. We need to know how impressionable we are. And that is our beautiful innocence in a way. It's nothing to be ashamed of or to try to set aside or overcome. Just know that. Just know that as a water bubble, you are taking on everything around you. So it's really time to stop watching what they give us for entertainment. I looked at Netflix recently, and what a pile of filth. What a disgusting pile of filth that website is. And if you go on YouTube, go under movies, like movies you can rent on YouTube, and just look at the blood and disgusting murder and just, it's terrible. So everything that they're handing us for entertainment now is grotesque. And, it has all this other inverted stuff with the genders and this constant inversion and confusion. I really feel that it's time we stop taking that on and stop taking that in. And it's hard because it's hard to be here. We're often wanting to distract ourselves. And, within the blood laws, I'm seeing we don't alter our senses with drugs and alcohol. And so that takes away a lot of escapism right there. You know, leave this entertainment over there in the filth where it is. That takes away a lot of escapism right there. So I understand that doing these things is hard. I honestly think too that the parasites that are inside of our bodies are going to make it hard for a lot of us to make some of these decisions. I've talked to people around me here about this parasite stuff, and I'll see them sort of recoil and react. And a couple times I said, I think that's your parasite responding, not you. And they're like, oh. Well, you know, there's something to it. You know, we have to recognize where we are, what the infestation is, how it got here, where it lives, in these icy realms, and that's just how I'm seeing it right now. Our home tree has been bored through, and the great worm is there, and that is the same thing that's going on within us. So I think we start here. We start here at home tree, this home tree, and we do our best to clean it up and await the baptism by fire. And you know, I'm starting to call this baptism by fire to me every day, like igniting the wick within my own body to bring this into our world. So I don't know, there's a little bit more here, but I think I've gotten my point across about this. I hope you guys found some quality in this content today, and that I came off in a way that was understood. And I love you guys. I'm going to come back soon with another video about goodness, and I'll talk to you then.